Zara Vex stepped out of her shuttle with cold, sharp eyes. She was the most feared spaceship inspector in the galaxy. Everyone knew her name. Everyone feared her visit. For 15 long years, Zara had walked through hundreds of ships. She checked every wire, every panel, every engine. She always found something wrong. No ship had ever passed her inspection without a long list of mistakes. Captains trembled when they heard she was coming. Engineers stayed up all night fixing tiny problems, hoping she would not notice, but she always noticed. Her eyes missed nothing. This time, Zara was sent to inspect a human spaceship called the Orion. It was an old ship, not very fancy, not very new. She expected the same thing she always found: broken systems, lazy crews, and careless mistakes. She walked up the ramp with her scanner ready. The metal floor creaked under her boots. She smiled a small, cold smile. This would be easy. But something felt different the moment she stepped inside. The lights were warm, not harsh. The air smelled clean. There was laughter coming from somewhere down the hall. Laughter on a ship being inspected. That was strange. Zara walked through the corridors, scanning walls, checking wires, testing doors. Everything was old, yes. Some parts were patched with simple tools. But everything worked. Every system responded. Every light turned on when it should. She frowned. This was not normal. A young crew member walked past her, smiling and waving. "Welcome aboard, Inspector. Need any help?" Zara did not answer. She was too busy thinking. In 15 years, no crew had ever smiled at her. They were always nervous, quiet, afraid to speak. She reached the engine room, expecting chaos. Instead, she found a tall woman with grease on her hands, humming a tune while she worked. "You must be Inspector Vex," the woman said, turning around with a friendly smile. "I'm Alice Ward, Chief Engineer. Want a tour?" Zara studied her carefully. "You don't seem worried about my inspection." Alice laughed. "Should I be? Every captain and engineer I have ever met is afraid of me." "Well," Alice said, wiping her hands on a cloth, "we're not perfect, but we know our ship, and we know each other. That's enough to keep flying." Zara's scanner beeped softly. No major errors, no critical failures, just small old parts fixed again and again with creative solutions. She had never seen anything like it. "Show me everything," Zara said quietly. "I want to understand this ship." Alice nodded. "Follow me." As they walked together through the engine room, Zara noticed something else strange. The crew did not avoid eye contact with her. They did not whisper behind her back. They worked together, calling out instructions, helping each other, laughing when something small went wrong, and fixing it without panic. This was not how broken ships behaved. This was not how nervous crews acted. Something about the Orion was different, and Zara Vex, the most feared inspector in the galaxy, was beginning to feel something she had not felt in 15 years. Curiosity. Alice led Zara through narrow hallways filled with humming machines and blinking lights. Every few steps, Alice pointed at something and explained it with pride. "This panel used to short out every week," Alice said, tapping a metal box. "We rebuilt it with parts from 3 different ships. Not pretty, but it hasn't failed in 2 years. Zara raised an eyebrow. "You used mismatched parts. That breaks at least 6 safety codes." "Maybe," Alice said with a shrug, "but it works. And when something does break, we already know how to fix it because we built it ourselves." Zara wrote nothing down. She was too busy listening. They walked into a room filled with screens and blinking numbers. A young man sat there, frowning at a chart. "Trouble, Cade?" Alice asked. "The fuel mix calculation is off again," he said. "Same problem as last month. Did you try the manual override sequence we used before?" "Tried it. Didn't work this time." Alice leaned over his shoulder, studying the numbers. Zara watched closely. She expected panic. She expected blame. Instead, she saw calm thinking. "Let's adjust the secondary valve instead of the primary," Alice suggested. Cade typed quickly. The numbers steadied. "That worked." "Good job," Alice said, patting his shoulder. Zara stepped closer. "You did not punish him for the mistake." Why would I? Alice asked, confused. Mistakes happen. What matters is fixing them. This was something completely new to Zara. In every ship she had ever inspected, mistakes were hidden, denied, or punished. No one ever admitted a problem out loud. They continued the tour. Zara saw broken parts replaced with cleverly designed solutions. She saw old systems improved little by little, year after year. Nothing was perfect. Everything looked a little messy. But every system worked exactly when it needed to. This ship should not function this well, Zara muttered. But it does, Alice said simply. We don't chase perfection, Inspector. We chase progress. Every week, something gets better. Every month, we learn something new. That's how we've survived this long. Zara stopped walking. She stared at Alice for a long moment. In 15 years, Zara said slowly, I have never seen a ship like this. Alice smiled. Maybe you've been looking for the wrong thing. Zara did not respond. She simply continued walking, her scanner quiet, her mind louder than it had been in years. That night, Zara sat alone in the guest quarters given to her. She reviewed her notes. Normally, by this point in an inspection, she would have pages of violations. Tonight, she had almost nothing. She thought about Alice's words. Maybe you've been looking for the wrong thing. Was it true? Had she spent 15 years searching for flaws, instead of looking for something else? Something more important? She did not have an answer yet. But deep down, a small doubt had been planted. And on the Orion, doubts had a way of growing fast. Outside her window, stars passed quietly. The ship hummed steadily beneath her feet, carrying its crew forward. Zara closed her eyes, but sleep did not come easily that night. The next morning began calmly. Zara continued her inspection, walking through storage rooms, life support systems, and communication decks. Everything was old but functional. Every crew member greeted her kindly, even though she still gave nothing away with her expression. Then, suddenly, everything changed. A deep, loud alarm echoed through the entire ship. Red lights flashed across every hallway. The floor shook violently. What was that? Zara shouted, grabbing a railing. A voice came over the speakers. All crew, brace for impact. Anomaly detected ahead. The ship rocked again, harder this time. Sparks burst from a nearby panel. Crew members ran past Zara, shouting commands to each other. Zara's heart pounded. In 15 years of inspections, she had never been on a ship during an actual emergency. She ran toward the engine room, where she knew Alice would be. When she arrived, the room was filled with smoke and flashing red warnings. Alice was shouting orders, her hands moving quickly across a control panel. What happened? Zara asked. Space anomaly, Alice said without looking up. Some kind of energy wave. It hit our main power core directly. How bad is it? Alice's face was tense. Bad. Power levels are dropping fast. If we don't stabilize the core in the next few minutes, we lose engines. Alice looked at her seriously. Then we drift. And we die. The room shook again. Crew members worked desperately, trying different solutions. Nothing worked. Numbers kept falling. The warning lights grew brighter and faster. Captain Frank Collins burst into the room, his face pale. Report! Core power at 30% and dropping, Alice said. We've tried every standard procedure. Nothing is holding. Options? Frank asked. None that I can see, Alice admitted, her voice tight with fear for the first time. Zara stood frozen for a moment. She watched the crew fight desperately against the failing systems. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. No one gave up. No one ran away. Then something inside her changed. Years of strict rules, regulations, and procedures rushed through her mind, but none of them matched this situation. None of them were built for an unknown anomaly like this. She thought about everything Alice had shown her. We don't chase perfection. We chase progress. An idea began forming in Zara's mind. A dangerous, unusual idea. One that broke almost every standard procedure she had ever followed. Alice, Zara said suddenly, her voice steady despite the chaos. I might have something, but it's risky. Very risky. Alice turned to her immediately. I'm listening. The ship shook violently once more. Red lights flickered. Power levels continued falling. There was no time to waste. The core power is failing because the system is trying to fix itself the normal way, Zara said quickly. But this is not a normal failure. The anomaly scrambled the internal balance. Standard repairs won't work. Then what will? Alice asked. We need to manually reverse the flow temporarily, Zara explained. Force the core into an unstable state on purpose, then redirect the energy through the backup line before it collapses. Alice's eyes widened. That's against every safety protocol in the galaxy. I know, Zara said. It could destroy the core completely, or it could save it. Captain Frank stared at both of them. You're suggesting we intentionally destabilize a failing power core? It's the only way, Zara said firmly. If we do nothing, the core fails anyway. At least this way, we have a chance. The room went silent, except for the wailing alarms. Alice looked at the captain, then at Zara. For years, Alice had built her career on creative problem-solving, not strict rules. She understood the risk completely. She also understood that doing nothing guaranteed failure. Inspector, Alice said slowly, are you certain about this? Zara hesitated. In 15 years, she had never trusted instinct over procedure. She had never taken responsibility for something this dangerous. But now, standing in the middle of a dying ship, she realized the rules she once trusted had no answer for this moment. No, Zara admitted honestly. I'm not certain, but I believe it's our best option. Alice took a deep breath, then nodded firmly. Then let's do it. Captain Frank looked at the trembling power readings, then back at the two women in front of him. Make it happen. Fast. Alice rushed to the controls. Talk me through it, Inspector. Zara moved beside her, scanning the system quickly. Reroute auxiliary power to Channel 3, then reverse the primary valve sequence, exactly opposite of standard procedure. That will create a power surge, Alice warned. Yes, but only for a few seconds. Then we redirect it immediately into the backup line, before it builds too much pressure. Alice's hands moved fast across the panel. Channel 3 rerouted. Reverse the valve. Now, Zara shouted. Alice flipped the switch. The room shook violently. Sparks flew from nearby wires. The lights flickered wildly. Power surge detected, a crew member shouted. Building fast. Redirect to backup line, Zara yelled. Now, Alice. Now. Alice slammed the secondary control. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the surge shifted. Energy flowed away from the failing core and into the backup system. The ship groaned loudly, metal stressing under the pressure. Everyone stared at the monitors, frozen, waiting. The numbers stopped falling. They held steady for 1 second, 2 seconds. It's holding, Alice whispered, almost afraid to believe it. But the danger was not over yet. Not even close. The room remained tense as everyone watched the monitors. Power levels had stabilized at a dangerously low point, but they were no longer falling. We're not safe yet, Alice said, wiping sweat from her forehead. The backup line can't hold this much pressure for long. We need full stabilization, or we'll lose everything in minutes. Zara studied the readings carefully. The core needs time to reset itself naturally. We have to keep the backup line steady until that happens. How long? Captain Frank asked. I don't know, Zara admitted. Maybe 5 minutes. Maybe 10. Alice looked at the trembling pressure gauge. The backup line might not survive that long. The ship shook again, weaker this time, but still frightening. Crew members held onto railings, watching the controls anxiously. We need to reduce strain on the backup system, Zara said, thinking quickly. If we shut down non-essential systems, we lower the pressure. That means losing life support in some sections, Alice warned. Temporary sections only, Zara said. Empty corridors, storage rooms, anything not currently occupied. Captain Frank nodded sharply. Do it. Alice's fingers flew across the controls, shutting down section after section. The pressure gauge slowly began to ease. It's working, Alice said, relief creeping into her voice. Strain is decreasing. Minutes passed like hours. Everyone stood silently, watching the numbers, praying they would hold. Then, finally, the core readings began to shift, slowly, steadily. Power levels began rising again, this time from genuine stabilization, not just the backup line. "Core is resetting," a crew member shouted. "Primary power returning." Alice let out a breath she had been holding for what felt like forever. "We did it. We actually did it." The alarms slowly faded. The red lights turned back to a calm, steady glow. The ship stopped shaking. For a long moment, no one spoke. They simply stood there, staring at the monitors, allowing relief to settle over them. Captain Frank broke the silence first. "Excellent work, both of you." Alice turned to Zara, a genuine smile breaking across her tired face. "That was incredible thinking, Inspector. I've never seen anything like that." Zara looked around the room at the relieved faces of the crew. For the first time in 15 years, she did not feel like an outsider searching for flaws. She felt like part of something. "It was a team effort," Zara said quietly. "I only knew the theory. You all made it real." Alice placed a hand on her shoulder. "Theory and action work best together. Just like this ship." Zara looked around the engine room one final time. The damaged panels, the patched wires, the creative repairs built over years of dedication. None of it was perfect. But all of it had worked exactly when it mattered most. After the danger passed, the Orion drifted quietly through space, its systems humming steadily once more. The crew worked together to repair the remaining damage, laughing occasionally as they shared stories about the terrifying moments they had just survived. Zara spent the next few days finishing her official inspection. She walked through every corridor again, this time with new eyes. She saw the same patched wires, the same mismatched parts, the same imperfect systems. But now, she understood them differently. She saw years of careful learning. She saw a crew that adapted instead of panicked. She saw a ship that survived not because it was flawless, but because its people never stopped solving problems together. On her final day aboard, Captain Frank Collins called her to his office. "Inspector Vex," he said, "I've reviewed your draft report. It's the most positive evaluation this ship has ever received." "It's accurate," Zara replied simply. Frank smiled. "I have a proposal for you." Zara raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "We need someone like you on this ship," Frank said. "Someone who understands rules, but also understands when to think beyond them. Alice spoke highly of you. So did the rest of the crew." "You're offering me a position," Zara said, surprised. "I am," Frank confirmed. "Permanent crew member. Safety and systems advisor." Zara was silent for a long moment. 15 years of her life had been built around inspecting ships, finding their flaws and moving on without looking back. She had never imagined staying on one. But the Orion was different. She thought about Alice's words from the very first day. "Maybe you've been looking for the wrong thing." She thought about the alarms, the fear, the teamwork, and the relief when the engines stabilized. She thought about a crew that never gave up, even when everything seemed lost. "I accept," Zara said finally. Frank smiled warmly. "Welcome aboard, officially this time." That evening, Zara stood near a viewing window, watching the stars stretch endlessly into the distance. Alice walked up beside her, smiling. "So," Alice said, "did you find your perfect ship, Inspector?" Zara smiled. A real, genuine smile. Something rare for her. "I did," she said quietly. "Not because it never makes mistakes, but because it never stops finding ways to move forward." Alice nodded, understanding completely. "That's the secret, isn't it? Perfection isn't about avoiding problems. It's about facing them together." Zara looked out at the stars, feeling something she had not felt in 15 years. Peace. For the first time in her life, she had stopped searching. She had already found exactly what she needed. The end.